Well, hi everyone. Welcome to the New England Racing Show from Manchester, New Hampshire, Channel 23. Also on YouTube, and like us on Facebook, you'll get the show automatically on your Facebook page. Well, today we have myself and our co-host, Shawn Duhaime, who is his son was a former go-karter for the WKA, is that World Karting Association? And Shawn did tech for the WKA, correct?
Yeah, I was a certified WKA tech and AKRA tech, two different governing bodies in go-karting.
Okay. Well, we have a couple of things we're going to talk about today. I talked about Johnny Lowinski Low, who ran in the ARCA race last Friday night. It was his first ARCA race, and he started 22nd, and he finished 10th, which is really, really good for his first ride in an ARCA car, to pass 12 cars like that and finish that high up. And at Kansas, it's a 1.5 mile track, and they're doing a $1.90 around there. And Johnny used to race with us in quarter midgets at Little Thompson Speedway, doing 30, 35 miles an hour, and his mother was all panicked. And now he's doing a $1.90. And she seems to be okay with that. So maybe she didn't like him going so slow. I don't know. But we talked with him yesterday. He has a ride for next year because he did so well. And right now he's going to be moving down to Mooresville, North Carolina in November. He's renting a house, and he's going to work in the shop all winter. He's working on getting marketing, sponsorship, and everything like that. He told us a little bit about the race. They run Hoosier tires, not Goodyears like the Cup cars do. And they're old Cup cars. Carl Edwards used to drive that car. They have pretty much the same engines, 800 horsepower. And he just had a good time doing it, and I think he's going to be on his way. And he's another one of I keep talking about the quarter midget kids that are making it in full-size racing. So I thought about that. Who's making it? And I came up with a little list here, about 22 kids, well, young men and women. First of all, I'll start with the most well-known, Joey Logano, who raced at Meriden, Connecticut. We actually raced against him one year when my son and him were just 6-7 years old, and they were what do you call them, novices. So they didn't really race, they just went around. The next one, most well known, I think, is Bobby Santos, who I think's pretty much the best wheelman around. He'll race supers, midgets, modifieds, whatever. And in no particular order here, we got Ryan Preece, last year's Winston Cup, not Winston Cup, Wheel and Tour modified champ. Then we get to the Valentes and the NASCAR modified tour. We have Tommy Barrett, who we raced with, Stevie Massey, we raced with him a lot, Max Zackham. He was racing Valente and just notified everyone on Facebook that they're going to the Wheel-In modified tour. So good luck to him. Derek Randstrom, one of the best drivers to come out of Little T, raced super late models, pass tour. Now he's on the NASCAR modified tour. Tyler Chadwick, who is a SK modified racer at Waterford, runs right up front all the time. Joey Gator, Nicole Morgillo, and they all race SK mods at Waterford and Stafford. Cam McDermott races at Stafford, an SK. Matt Galco, SK and Valente mod. I'm sure you'll hear a lot about Matt. Then we get to the super late models. We have Dylan Moltz, runs the Granite State Pro Stock Series, and we saw him win at Star Speedway on Classic weekend. Anthony Belcito went to Seekonk with his new Pro Stock and won. First race out. Late models, Ryan Morgan, we've seen him race at Waterford, and I guess he's racing at Stafford now, or touring around, maybe with ACT. Anthony Flannery. And then we get to Midgets. We have Richie Morocco, raced at Little T. Anthony Payne. I think Anthony's only like 15 years old, and he's already racing a NEMA midget.
Is Joey Payne's son?
Yes, Joey Payne's son. And everyone knows who Joey is, the legendary super modified driver. Ian Coomans, him and his sister Allison Coomans, both, he races a midget and Allison races an ISMA Big Block Super. And they come out of Oak Lane Club from Pennsylvania. Bobby's sister Erica Santos, who's a great driver in her own right, races a NEMA midget occasionally. And then my sons PJ and Jake Stergios raced small block supers and midgets. So there's 22 of them that come out of quarter midgets, and they're all doing really well because they learned how to drive clean in quarter midgets. Because they had what they call a judge's stand, about 15 feet high off the track, and you'd get like 5 parents up there on the judge's stand, and they'd watch, some would watch the first 4 cars or first 5 cars, some would watch the last 5, and the chief judge would watch everything. And if there was a racing incident where there was a collision, you'd try to make a judgment whether it was just racing or somebody chopped down on the car trying to pass them on the inside or somebody charged. But anyway, the kids would go to the back if that was the case, and they learn how to drive cleanly. And that's why these kids are so good.
Well, that's interesting to me. I didn't realize that's how it was addressed and how they came up through and learned. I know there was something similar in F1. We spent a couple seasons there in Boston, and they worked in that fashion. But it does give them the ability of knowing what to do and not to do, and to discern between the two of them.
Yeah, it sure does. And a lot of these kids, pretty much all of them, have started racing when they were 6 or 7 years old. So now
it's a very impressive list, and you didn't mention that your son was the champion this last year at Lee either.
Oh yeah,
which is quite an accomplishment. Small block supers.
Yeah, we're really proud. And my other son PJ was the crew chief, and he's a big part of why we did so well. So we have a great crew chief and a great driver, and we'll see where that goes. But anyway, these kids, they come up, and for instance, I want to single out Derek Randstrom. We raced with him for about 6 or 7 years, and in the 6 or 7 years we've raced with Derek, I've never seen him drive anything close to what you would call dirty in quarter midgets. He was probably the cleanest driver that I've ever seen there. And then he goes to Thompson, and he drives the same way, and here's these people, they're mad because he's passing them, so they start wrecking him, and he learns he's got to do what he's got to do, but all in all, he's a good, clean driver. And
it's much harder to drive clean.
It is, yeah, especially when you're racing against these older guys that just want to slam into you, and they think, oh, here's this 23-year-old kid, he's a rookie, and I'm going to take care of him. They don't realize that 23-year-old kid's been racing for 17 years, longer than they have, and open wheel too. So they get in a full body car, and they do the same thing. They drive clean. Okay, well, moving on, we're going to talk about a new Asphalt Midget series that's starting up. It went on, we did an exclusive interview with Mark McKeon of Area Auto Racing Paper, and it came out this morning online, 6 a.m., and Mark did a really good story on it, and we just want to recap what we're all about. We started back 10 years ago. USAC started what they call the USAC Ford Focus Midget Series. And they used Ford Focus engines from that time, putting out about 165 horsepower in a regular midget chassis. And we were in the Northeast region. They had regions all over the United States. They had the Southeast region, which is still in existence, a Midwest region, Indiana, dirt and asphalt, and the California series, dirt and asphalt, two separate series, because you can't really run the same car in both and be competitive. So we raced the Northeast series, and it ran for about 3 years. But as with a lot of racing, the costs got out of control. People started running $1,200 Penske shocks, all carbon fiber bodies, and then they started to cheat with the engines, of course, which we found out later on. This one was cheating, that one was doing all this, and the tech wasn't what it should have been. And tech is a big, important part of making a series even for everybody. And that's what we're going to be addressing in our series. Well, what happened was the series went from 20 cars at Seekonk Speedway when we started down to 6, and everybody, the regional director, just walked away from the series, and that was the end of it. Well, NEMA, Northeast Midget Association, picked us up, and we did an exhibition race at Seekonk with 6 cars, and they took us under their wing, and Bobby Seymour was the guy that was most instrumental in getting this series going. And we went up to, at the Boston Louis race in Seekonk, we went up to 29 cars showed up, what they call NEMA light cars. So the series has really, really grown. And we want to keep it affordable, and we also want to keep expanding it. So we've gone out on our own, and we are going to be racing a lot of New England tracks, whereas NEMA was going way out to western New York and northern New York. It's a lot of traveling, so we're keeping it in New England. We have 10 races scheduled so far. Lee Speedway, Star Speedway, Hudson Speedway. Bob Weber Sr. was really enthused about the series, and he's put us in touch with other promoters, and we hope to have, well, we could have 20 races, I imagine, but I think we're going to limit it to 16. If you take April, May, June, July, August, September, 6 months, in October, 7 months, and 2 races a month, and hopefully the Boston Louis at Seekonk, there's 15 races, and
two a month helps the pocketbook as well.
Yeah, we can't be racing every week.
Be nice if we could.
Yeah, I'd love to, but my wallet wouldn't love it too much.
Tire bill, it gets expensive.
Yeah, we want to make it affordable, but not to the point where you have to take a mortgage on your house to race. I mean, we did a tour down at Butch Valley's shop, New England Motor Racing Supply, and we talked with Brian Allegresso about a month ago, which was that was a real popular show we did, because he told us all about super modifieds. He had some in different stages of.
No, he builds them, correct?
Yeah, and you were down there today.
Yeah, I haven't met the man, but I did see that there were a number of chassis in there in various forms of, I guess, under construction.
Right, he had 2 on the table, just bare chassis that were just all welded up, and he had one that had wheels on it. It was almost like a roller without a body on it. And then we looked at Jeff Locke's complete super there. I'm so envious. That's the most beautiful super I've ever seen.
Aren't they something? And to watch those are just so impressive.
Yeah.
What they do, the speeds they do it at, and again, that clean driving, which is necessary at the speeds that they run and the horsepower that they have. Correct me if I'm wrong, but we're talking, what, 800 to 1,000 horsepower?
Probably. I know the engines, we talked to Brian, and the engines are $40,000 to $65,000.
Unbelievable.
And that's, just to show an example, that's how costs get out of control. They say you have to protect the racers against themselves. They'll spend $1,000
They won't eat.
They won't eat. Well, somebody's eating. I see a lot of them are pretty big guys. but they're walking around with holes in their shoes like we are, and but the cars are nice. And I remember one guy said he got a home equity loan, and he said, well, the house still looks like crap, but the car's running real good. So, you know, we don't want to spend $30,000, $40,000 on an engine. That's just not, it's not practical. And my saying is, if I got 30 grand, I'm going to put new windows in my house and put new siding on my house. I'm not going to spend it on a hand grenade engine that could blow up 5 laps in, and, you know, sometimes they do. You never know. So we have the Ford Focus engines. We have the Quad 4 engines. And we have one guy that has an older Ecotech engine, and we're going to allow him to run. He's a low bucks racer like a lot of us. And that's going to be it. We're not going to allow the Honda engines or any of these exotic engines to come in that destroy the racing because they have more horsepower than the rest of us. And that just creates dissension. So we had to come up with a name. And I thought about, okay, New England AllStar High Performance Midget Racing Association. We had all these mouthful of words, and I thought, wait a minute. We got this legend here in racing, and his name is Bentley Warren. And his book, Wicked Fast. We did a show from Bentley's Saloon back in April. And I said, wait a minute, this is New England. So we took, in honor of Bentley Warren, we are naming the series the Wicked Cool Midgets. They're not the Wicked Fast Midgets like Bentley's used to, but they're wicked cool. And we realize that this racing deal is maybe 80% racing and 20% entertainment. So we want to make it an event. When we go to a track, we want to make it an event for the fans and the kids. And I think back when I used to work at Star Speedway back in the 80s, when Bob Weber Sr. bought the track, we did the Speedy Dry there for about 6 or 7 years. And there was a guy named Mo Tweedy. And you won't
Now, I remember Mo Tweedy from when I was a kid at Briar's Motorsport Park.
Oh, really? He raced there, too?
Loudon, he absolutely raced there for many years. Their Wednesday night stock car class. And I remember vividly this head he had located on the top of his car, the doll head.
Yeah. Yeah, he had a doll's head on the roof of his car, and it was lit. So he'd race around with this doll's head with the hair flowing and everything.
And in fact, just a little sidebar here, but that's actually where I started my racing, was up at Briar's Motorsport Park. And to tell you how times have changed, that's now the New Hampshire Motor Speedway. And having grown up in Loudon, Wednesday night was the stock car night race, which they had for decades. Yeah. And at 15, I shouldn't say this, but I was. I would actually drive my stock car up the interstate, up Route 106 from my house, and drive to the racetrack. Yeah. We didn't have a trailer.
At 15?
Yeah, at 15.
Well, you can tell now that statute of limitations.
Right, it's over with now. But I used to leave driver's ed class early so I could make it to the race.
Oh, cool. So. And what size was that track? I heard it was 5/8. It was pretty big, wasn't it?
There was a larger one. There was an inner track that we raced on with the stock cars where the infield was. It was somewhat of a swamp, but it was open water. Looking back at it, it was extremely dangerous, and it's amazing no one was killed. And I found myself upside down one time, and it was loaded with snapping turtles, and it was quite an incentive to stay away from there, especially on your roof. But
I hear you.
That's quite a history that track does.
I went up there once also, and I remember the pond in the infield. And even when they built New Hampshire Speedway, it had a pond on the infield for a while. Somehow they were able to fill that in.
Yeah, they actually made, they did, and they made more wetlands in different areas to.
Oh yeah, they have to. That's what's happening to I-93 now. Hmm? They're widening it and taking like 13 acres of wetlands, so they have to make new wetlands somewhere else. But it evens out. But as far as entertainment, I'm talking about Mo Tweedy. Bob Weber was telling me stories about how Mo would, after the race, he'd stop at the start-finish line, pop open his trunk, and there'd be the trunk would be full of little kids' stuffed animals, and he'd be throwing them over the fence into the crowd, and everybody loved it. Or he'd have a bucket full of roses, and he'd give them out to the mothers. And Bob said, you know, Mo got it. Mo was a racer, but Mo knew that
The
it was
interaction.
entertainment.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's what we want to follow, is Mo Tweedy's his example. Thank you, Mo. Rest in peace. He was pretty, I don't know.
Interesting character.
Interesting character, yeah. Like him or hate him, he was good for racing. Really was. A long-time racer. So we're gonna be providing entertainment for people. We were at Bear Ridge a few weeks ago, and they had a big bike giveaway. They had 60 bikes that the racers bought, and they put them on the start-finish line and gave them out to the kids. Kids would enter and get a number, and you could go down, and if they picked your number, go down and pick out a bike. So we want the kids to say, hey, Dad, take me to see the wicked cool midgets. I want to get a free bike or whatever to get them in there, and then they'll see some great racing. I mean, 3 and 4 wide racing. We don't want them to say, hey, Dad, take me to see the New England High Performance Midget Racing Association. You know, they don't care about that.
And one day want to participate themselves.
Exactly. I tell the story about, I told it to Red McDonald when we won the track championship, how my sons, I would take them to Lee Speedway every Friday night. They were, 3 and 6. And I'd have to sit in the front row because they couldn't climb up. And I'd have those 2 characters and a bag full of Matchbox cars, maybe 100 cars.
The sandbox scenario.
Yeah, and underneath the first row was dirt. So they'd lay on the ground and make a little track, and the other kids would come around, and they'd all be going with the dirt, and I'd be watching the races. And now I told Red how, geez, I'm standing here in Victory Lane with my kid who used to have the little Matchbox car, and their favorite car was the yellow 44 Modified, a Reggie Ruggiero. I still have a couple of those. Someday if I meet Reggie, I'll show them to him. I love to do a show down at Reggie and Eddie Flemke Jr.'s shop. They build modifieds, Raceworks, I believe it's called. And we'd love to go down there and do a show, so I'll bring my little Matchbox cars with me.
Oh, you still have them?
I still have. I've got tons of them. Tons of them. I told Mario Fiore about that, and he was laughing because he was Reggie's car owner, I guess, at the time. So anyway, we want this series to be a fun series for the racers. And when I worked at Star Speedway, I worked under a guy that ran the racetrack, the infield and everything. His name was Bunk Sampson. And this guy was just unbelievable. He was the best guy to work for. Just one heck of a nice guy. He didn't yell at you. He made you feel like you were part of his team, and everyone wanted to do their job and please Bunk and make sure that he didn't get yelled at. So he was just great. And later on, Bunk left, and he, I guess he worked for Lee for a while, Lee Speedway, and then he went to the Busch Grand National North.
Wow.
And he was the series director there for a few years, and unfortunately in 1991, Bunk got cancer and passed away soon thereafter. And they still, I believe to this day, they still have, it's the K&N series now, they still have the Bunk Sampson Award given out by his family to one person every year, whether it's a racer or someone, an official, that shows the qualities that Bunk had. So that's who I'm going to use as my idol, so to say. I mean, how to do things the right way.
And there's a right and a wrong way to do it.
Yeah.
And we've each come up through different levels and series of racings, and I think we collectively can pull a lot of things we think were right and wrong, and kind of trying to address those as this is developed. So it not only is fun, but it's fair.
Right, and we just want to we have a saying that we're not here for a long time, but we're here for a good time, and we're going to make this racing fun for everybody. All the competitors, they are our partners. You're not going to have, when you come to race with us, you're not going to have a tech official come over and get in your face and start bossing you around. That's not going to happen. I kind of liken it to the market basket saga. Everyone in New England here knows what that's about.
The entire country knows what that's about. It's a very unique situation.
Where Arthur T. DeMoulis had such loyal employees that they wouldn't work for anyone else. I think that's the kind of guy Bunk Sampson was. And, I'm not trying to be Bunk Sampson by any means, but I just want to run a fair series. But anyway, Shawn here is going to be our tech official. And we're trying to determine the best way to do these engines. Originally, I wanted to do horsepower and weight. Shawn came up with a lot of different reasons why we have to look at other things, right, Shawn?
Correct.
So we're going to be looking at these other ways of teching engines, because the cars are pretty straightforward.
One of the things is transparency. There needs to be a level of transparency that is seldom seen. And that's what we're trying to find, what the good fit is going to be. Keep it economical and keep it obviously above board in a way that everyone feels they're treated fairly from race to race and from season to season.
And if you DQ my son, you DQ my son. Nobody's going to complain. Also, we have a flagman, and we will be getting an announcer or use the track announcer, but we have already, like I said, 10 races. We're working our way up to 16. 15, 16 should do it. And we have a lot of people that said that they want to come race with us. So we are going to be doing a lot of promotion here when we go to, say, Star Speedway. We'll bring our car there the week before, and we'll put it on display. The kids will have hero cards. Fans will come up, get autographs, and then
interaction again.
Yep, that's what we need to do. We need to build a following. I talked to Mike Parks, who is the head of the Granite State Pro Stock Association, and he told me that's the biggest challenge, is to build a following. And I think in order to do that, you need to be able to go to these tracks 3-4 times a year so that people know who you are, who these drivers are. Not just show up with a bunch of cars and they go out on the track. We want to have a meet and greet before the race, and where the crowd can come down onto the main straightaway. Kids can sit in the cars, get their picture taken. Now with the iPhones, everyone has cameras on their phones.
You want a family affair. You want it so that, again, the spectators and the races for that matter, but it's an entire day of fun. That it's not a stressful situation, because enough stress will find itself into the racing scenario, trust me.
Right.
But there's many things to do to alleviate that. And I really applaud what you're putting together here, because it's going to be a lot of work.
Well, the nice thing about this series is the cars have starters, clutches, for the most part, and you're not having a bunch of push trucks trying to get cars started and holding the show up. If someone spins out, they can usually just start up and take off and just have a quick yellow. So that's one reason why promoters like us so much, is that the show goes quick. When we raced at Seekonk with the Boston Louis, Eric LaFletch and his crew had the Victory Lane radio show down in Turn 1. And I listened to it after on their internet show, and it was pretty cool, because all they could say when we were lining up was, "Man, there's a lot of cars." They said it like 3 times. They couldn't believe how many cars we had.
And by the way, who won that race?
Oh, we won't get into that. My son, PJ.
Not only are they impressive drivers, they're very impressive young men. And the sport could use more of them.
Yep. And female drivers, too. I mean,
absolutely.
They come out of quarter midgets, and there's a lot of dads. They got, they don't have sons, they got daughters, and they're welcome to race with us. We know We used to race with Nicole Morgillo, and she was one tough cookie, I'll tell you. She put you in the wall in a heartbeat. Nobody messed with Nicole. Out of all the drivers, she was probably the toughest, male or female.
Wow.
So, anyway, we're wrapping the show up now, and Shawn's going to be our tech guy, and we have a flagman. We're all set to go, and we're just getting more and more races, and this is going to be a huge success. So, all you young drivers out there, come and see us, come race with us, and we will be at Lee Speedway this weekend covering the Oktoberfest. There's going to be 18 divisions of racing.
Yeah.
And we're going to be filming some of those and talking to people in the pits. So we'll have a lot for you next week. So thanks for joining us, and thanks for coming on, Shawn.
Oh, you're very welcome.
We'll see you all next week.